Welcome to the second part of this video. On the first one, we already set the materials and the shaders, and now we're going to focus on the lighting setup and the composition in order to create this volumetric mutic type of image. So now I'm going to start with the lighting. So for that, I'm going to go to the environment tab and create a new one, and it's going to be a gray sphere, a gray HDRI. So if I go to the HDRI editor, I'm going to change that to a black. For now, I'm going to change it to a total black color. Now I'm going to hit OK. So in order to create this volumetric lighting with these God rays that are kind of appealing, I need a source of light that it's strong enough. So I'm going to create a physical light, in this case, a spotlight. So I'm going to go to my edit option, then add light, and I'm going to use spotlight. So now that I have created this, now I can move it and see how it's just casting light to the motorcycle that I have here. So if I go into my geometry view, I can see where it's placed. And I'm going to set for now my camera in this angle. And I'm going to move my spotlight a little bit up and to the side. So I just want to illuminate this part of the motorcycle and cast some shadows to the back of the motorcycle. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to edit some properties for this spotlight material. So I'm gonna use the constant light output, so I will have to decrease the intensity of it. So I'm gonna maybe use 20 watts. I think that kind of works. And I'm gonna decrease the angle so I get like a narrower area where the light hits. And I'm gonna move again this spotlight because I want to focus the light more in this area and give a little bit more of darkness in this part of the motorcycle. So I'm gonna hit Scene, Spotlight Material, Control D. Well, I can just hit Control D and select the spotlight, and then I can move it. I'm gonna rotate it, but I'm gonna select the motorcycles at the pivot for that rotation. So I'm gonna go to Pivot Object. I'm gonna select the Vespa, and now I can rotate that spotlight using the Vespa as the pivot for it. So I'm gonna place it, I would say, right here. For now, to create that volumetric fog, I'm gonna use a scattering material. So I'm gonna just update my HDRI, and I'm gonna create a cube with the edit a geometry cube, and now I'm gonna scale it to make it bigger than the actual motorcycle. So I'm gonna just scale it up, and I'm gonna hit OK. And now we can see that the motorcycle is inside that cube, but I need to move it. So I'm gonna select it, right click, move selection, translate. And I think that in these newer versions of KeyShot, I can just hit the T for translation. Yes, I'm gonna put it right here. And we can see nothing because light is not passing through. So I'm gonna double click the cube here and go into the cube material, and I'm gonna change it from diffuse to scattering medium. Now I have to change the transmission color to white. I'm gonna hit OK, and now we can see that we have this foggy type of lighting in here. But I will make it a little bit big. I'm gonna make that cube a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna hit select it, right click, move selection, scale, and I'm gonna use a uniform scale. And I'm gonna hit T again for translation, or maybe just hit ground. And that will be with OK. Okay, something that we need in order to create those God rays or that good-looking interferences in the fog, it's that we need a geometry that casts some shadows or create some irregularity in the light beam that it's being projected into the object. So for this scene, I'm gonna use a tree, because trees with all their leaves and all that stuff as by themselves are pretty much irregular. So that will give us some irregular shadows, and that will change the light beam's directions and create these rays that we are looking for. So let me just go and grab my 3D model and drag it into my scene. Well, you can use whatever 3D model of a tree that you find on the internet. For now, I'm gonna use one that I just found in a page that is free. I'm gonna drag it into my scene and I'm gonna import it. So now that it's imported, which may take some minutes to do that, I'm gonna look for the position that will interfere with my spotlight and the beam direction and the object. So we have this rays created. So now here we have our tree. It's quite enough, which has like a real scale if we compare it to the motorcycle size, but we need it to be a little bit smaller just for this scene. So I'm gonna select it. I'm gonna go to the properties, to the position, sorry, and I'm gonna scale it from 10 to maybe something around 4. Okay, now what I want to do is to place it somewhere that is gonna interfere with that spotlight light and the motorcycle. So I'm gonna select it, right click, move selection, and I'm gonna move it somewhere around here. But now I have to also move that light so it casts the shadows from outside or somewhere right about this place. So I'm gonna select the spotlight, right click, move selection, and I'm gonna move it somewhere around here. As you can see now, we can see the shadows or the light on the tree, but we lost the motorcycle. So I'm gonna have to increase that power of the intensity of that spotlight. Let me see, just maybe around 100. Or maybe around, let's see, 200. And now I will have to I will also have to change that beam angle to get more of a light direction. So I'm gonna maybe use like 70 degrees. And I'm gonna go to the motorcycle to make a little bit of zoom. And as we can see now, there we have this inconsistency on that white light beam, but it's not that bright enough. So I'm gonna increase that value, maybe ramp it up a little bit up, maybe 1000 watts. And maybe I would say that can work. Just let me rotate that spotlight so it will just put a little bit more of light in this place of the motorcycle. So I'm gonna hit right click, move selection. I need the rotate. So I'm gonna rotate it maybe around here. I'm gonna hit OK. Seems that the tree is causing a lot of interference and some big shadow. So I'm gonna move it in a place that it will give more chance for the light beam to get into the motorcycle. So let me just adjust the position of that tree. Okay, so now I'm gonna also increase the brightness. Let me just go to 3000 watts and something like that. But to get, I think now it's working better. We have, it's now visible. Maybe we don't have too much information here, but we can solve that using the HDRI editor. So I'm gonna go to the environment tab, and first of all, I'm gonna change something with the background, because for now it's a completely black background, so no lights. And we need something that I like to call like a residual light, which is this one that even though we have no lights, it's dark outside, there's some residual photons over there messing around, which causes a little bit of light reflections. So in order to achieve that and not to have this completely black background, maybe like in the vacuum of the space, I'm gonna change the background from a color to a gradient. And instead of going from black to instead of white, I'm gonna change that value. I'm gonna go to the completely black color, but I'm gonna use the RGB scale, and I'm gonna add some blue tint, maybe around 25, or something around 20. And I'm gonna hit OK. So I get a little bit of residual light up in here. And now if I need more information here, but not as the main source of light, let's say something like bouncing light, I'm gonna create a pin in my HDR editor, adding a pin, and then I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller, and I'm gonna place it right into this part of the motorcycle. But here's something: as this option is active, the one that can set the position when I hit the click on the mouse in the part of the motorcycle, let's remember that we have a cube here. So I'm gonna just hide that cube so it can work better, and I'm gonna place that new pin somewhere so that new light hits over here. I think it works for now. I'm gonna just add some more brightness, like 2, and I'm gonna add a little bit of follow, so I have like a bigger graded light. And I'm gonna come back and turn on my cube, and as we can see, now we have a little bit more of information on the front of this motorcycle. Okay, now I'm gonna just update the HDRI because I did some modifications. And one thing that I want here is that, as you can see, the shadows that are projected from the tree leaves onto the motorcycles are too sharp. You know, we can see this line over here, which is kind of like weird. So how can we adjust that? So let's go to the spotlight material, and I'm gonna edit the radius of that spotlight. If we increase that radius, shadows will be softer. So I'm gonna increase it, and maybe, okay, that's a little bit too much, maybe or somewhere around 20. And we still have those shadows, but we can see that there are no more sharp lights. We have these soft lines that are more kind of natural for this. So I'm gonna hit done. And for now, let's say that we have enough light coming from the spotlight. We have these shadows, and we also have those God rays that we can see over here. Now we need a floor for 2 reasons. One, so we don't see this a weird blue tint which comes from the environment, but also to let light bounce back to the motorcycle. So I'm gonna use my ground material, my ground plane, which already has a ground material, and let's use a material that is already on the KeyShot library, which will be a wood type, and I'm gonna use the wood planks. Yep, I can use this, and I'm gonna okay, let's remember we have to hide the cube material, otherwise everything will go into that cube. I'm gonna use the wood planks, and I'm gonna drag it into that ground plane. So now the ground plane changed the material type from a plastic, and now it's getting the information for this wood plank. Okay, so now I'm gonna just save this. Remember, remember to save your scene, just in case. And let's adjust this material and make it a little bit more make it a little bit different. So I'm gonna double click on it, go to material graph, and let's see how this is working. I'm gonna close this so we can see a little bit more. And now we have the diffuse, which I would say I don't want this red theme on the floor. I want a little bit more natural and maybe like worn type of wood. So I'm gonna double click on the color adjust node, and I can just maybe change the hue a little bit so I can get more of a brownish type of wood, and I can change the saturation value so I can have like a older type of wood. I would say this is working. And for the roughness, we can use this map, but I don't want that many reflections, so I'm gonna use the output from. I'm gonna increase that value so color of the image is kind of a brighter value. So I'm gonna also change the output so I can get a more rough type of reflections, maybe something like this. And the specular, I'm gonna use maybe a noise fractal node, so I can get irregularity on those on the intensity of the reflections. So I'm gonna scale it up, maybe around 400, which I think it's a little bit small. I would say 2000 or maybe 4000. I think that works better. I'm gonna hit C again, and I'm gonna connect this node to the specular material. I think it's a little bit dull, so I'm gonna use a color to number so I can make it a little bit more white so I can get more intensity of those reflections. Maybe something like this. So the brighter areas will have more intensity on the reflections, and the darker areas will have less intensity on that reflection. So I'm gonna hit C again. I think it's working better. And now I'm gonna turn back on the cube with the scattering medium material again, so we can see how it's affecting the overall image. Well, so far so good. Let's go to the final tuning of this scene. And I'm gonna go to the image tab. I'm gonna select the photographic mode. But first of all, let's just go to the lighting tab, and I'm gonna use the interior mode, which I think works better for this type of images. And let's go back to the image tab and use the photographic mode. I'm gonna go maybe with high contrast or maybe with the low contrast. I think for now, low contrast mode works for me. And now I can change the exposure so I can make a little bit more brighter image without having to increase the light intensity. I can change the white balance. I can make it here or maybe on Photoshop, but I'm gonna put it here right now, and I can just work with the contrast and the curve. So for now, these adjustments, I think that you can make it with your own personal taste. So for now, I'm gonna just use it like this. I'm gonna activate the denoise, which I don't use it that much and not with that higher values, but I think that something like a small value could help even more for those that can use a GPU mode, so it can help your CPU to render faster, or well, with to reduce all that noise that came from this physical light. But Firefly filter is needed just for these points, and maybe with the direction of your light or the intensity of your light, maybe you can have to use it a little bit with a higher value than me. So for now, I'm gonna leave it in 0.2. So get rid of those fireflies that were just messing around here. Now I'm gonna add the rust to the paint, which will give us or help us to give this sensation of a older image. So I will go to scene, hide the cube, double click on the material of the paint and open the material graph. So now I'm gonna hit right click, go to textures, and I'm gonna use the 3D paint node. Now I will have to go to my library, and I will go to textures, and I will look the one that says rust, and here's rusty paint, and I'm gonna drag this texture to my material graph. And I don't know why the paint node disappeared, so I'm gonna just use it, look for it again. So textures, 3D paint, and I'm gonna connect this rusty paint to the color. I'm gonna double click on the 3D paint, and now in order to use this, I'm gonna hit the, where is it? I'm gonna hit the paint option. So I'm gonna hit paint, and now this will activate a brush into my main view. So whenever I just drag it, that will paint, but it's not visible now because I forgot to connect this to the base color. So I'm gonna just put it here, and now we can see that this is painting on the material. Whenever I just click, we can change the size of the brush, maybe a little bit smaller for these areas, or maybe a little bit bigger but with less opacity and less flow. Or maybe let's say something like these parts, maybe something here, also maybe here, maybe someone just fell off from the motorcycle and just scratch that paint. And you can just go and get creative with the brush and add those tiny details to the paint with the rusty paint brush. Now, once you're happy with it, you just hit done, and that's it. This rusty paint, it's now embedded into the base color. So I'm gonna close my material graph and turn on again my cube. Now I'm gonna add the headlight light, and I'm gonna use for that an IES material, but first I'm gonna add a sphere. So I'm gonna hit edit, add geometry, sphere. It doesn't really matter the scale of it because it will be replaced for the material, the information of the material, but just for clarity, I'm gonna scale it down a little bit. Something maybe like this, which it's kind of like coherent to the size of the headlight. And now I'm gonna use my geometry view. I'm gonna hit here, okay, geometry view. And I'm gonna move it, right click, center and fit selection. I'm gonna place it right into the headlight, something like this. And I'm gonna go to the top view, which has to be a little bit to the front, something like here. I'm gonna hit OK, and now I'm gonna go to the material library, and I'm gonna go to light, open that up, and IES light, and I'm gonna use this K27 LED. So I'm gonna drag it, and let's take caution here, because if you drag it here, remember that we have that cube in front of all that stuff, so it will replace the scattering material that corresponds to the cube. So instead of turning it off and all that stuff, I can drag it right into the scene. So I'm gonna just drag it here, and as you can see, well, it's facing down. So I'm gonna just click move selection, and I'm gonna just point which should be heading to. I'm gonna hit OK. And now you can see that we have this mesh that is telling us the direction and position of the light. But to hide that, I'm gonna just hit L on the keyboard, and that will make it disappear. So now we can see that we have like some light beams cast from the inside of that of the headlight, but we're missing a part, so let's just hide the cube. Let's hide that glass, and let's go to this specific part of the model, which is this one. I'm gonna hit S to isolate it because I want to make this as an emissive material. So as for now, it is joined to the entire part, to the entire piece. So I'm gonna hit right click, split separate objects. Now that we have this material, this geometry view active, I'm gonna click on that part, which enables to select it, and I'm gonna hit split object, apply, and then I can just hit or select this, hit right click and on link material, double click on it, and I'm gonna change the type from metal to an area light. It's too bright, so I'm gonna scale that intensity down, maybe around 10, and I'm gonna change that color for a more warm light, so maybe somewhere around here. And now I can zoom out, right click, show all parts, and now we have the light coming from the interior of the headlight. And let's stop. Maybe just go to the spotlight material and make it a little bit warmer, that light, because for now it's too white, and I want to give that kind of warm light from the morning. So I'm gonna just drag that Kelvin slider to some warmer light. I'm gonna hit OK, and maybe I will have to increase the intensity a little bit more to compensate the darker color for that spotlight. And for last and not least, let's do some final adjustments for this image. We can leave the tree here, but maybe we want to hide it. We can just hide all the object, but we will lose those rays. But we're gonna make a trick here. So I'm gonna double click on it. So going to the material properties of it, and I'm gonna change the type from generic to an emissive material. And as we can see now, it's worse. Now we can see a white tree, but I'm gonna change that to black and hit OK. I'm gonna hit visible in shadows, and I'm gonna disable visible to camera. And I'm gonna do the same stuff with all the different materials. I can just copy that material, but just that I have this cube, and now it will be difficult to just drag them. I'm gonna just replicate that and just go to emissive, black, visible in shadows, visible to camera, and also this. And now the three are kind of hidden, even though it's not in the geometry or in the wireframe, as we can see now, but it's turned off, kind of say, and we still have those rays. And last, let's go to camera. Maybe I'm gonna change the lens settings, because for this type of automotive type of renderings, I would like to use more a larger focal length, maybe something like 70 millimeters. Okay, just something is happening here. Remember our cube, so we have to scale it a little bit more because we're not getting into the entire image frame. So I'm gonna go back to the cube, right click, move selection, scale, and I'm gonna just scale it up, something like that. That should be enough. And now let's go to camera. Something happened with my cube material. Okay, now here it is. I think if I have to make it a little bit smaller. I think it was too big. So I'm losing some of the rays as I go closer. Yes, I'm gonna hit OK. And now with the camera, I'm gonna select the grid. I'm gonna use thirds, and I'm gonna look for an anchor in the object so I can just place it in one of the intersections of that grid. So sometimes the headlight will be like a good intersection point. So I'm gonna just look for the center of that headlight, and I'm gonna make intersect with that intersection. Maybe rotate it a little bit more, like that. Maybe a little bit out with the zoom out, so we can just keep that wheel there. And I can save that camera. And now we get this image. If you want to change the ray positions or how the shadows are casted or how the rays interact with the scene, you can move their tree, you can adjust the scattering material properties, or change the spotlight position to get more interesting light irregularities. Or you can just change the camera and see what happens. So thank you for staying here and watching this video. Hope this will help you to create images using this volumetric lighting and scattering material, or maybe just on how to make some rusty materials using the 3D paintbrush. So thank you so much for looking at this tutorial, and see you on the next one.